We are doing our week 5 power rankings for the NFL into tiers. We're going to start out with the Super Bowl contenders. We have the Detroit Lions. I think with that performance against the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, I don't know how you can take them out. I think that's the best the Lions maybe have looked all year.
Yeah, well, again, we were confident that the Lions were going to figure it out, that they're going to stick around Super Bowl contenders. And look, I'm going to say it. I don't really think they're going to be moved out of Super Bowl contenders this year at this point. I really don't. They look like they're rolling again. Jared Goff's rolling again. If you're a Lions fan, you know my trademark. You got to be doing backflips.
Now we have the Houston Texans. I still have them in Super Bowl contenders, but I am a little bit more shaky on them than I was at the beginning of the year. Do you think that things just aren't clicking? Like, what do you think the issue is in Houston?
I think, like we talked about before, maybe a bit of an something we don't even talk about as much. But here's how I'm going to look at the situation in Houston, right? Tank Dell missed a lot of time last year. Still trying to get him reacclimated. You're still trying to get Diggs acclimated. The O line is playing solid, but they're not playing as good as they were like last year. Most of them, at least. And yeah, the O line didn't play good last year necessarily, but you're not really seeing the big jumps you wanted to see from the guys you thought were going to make jumps, which is kind of maybe I would say the biggest problem on offense. But besides all that, really what I'm trying to say is I think that the Texans are one of those teams where maybe you're not going to throw out the best things in your playbook early. You're going to keep it in your back pocket. You're going to save it for the playoffs because you understand that at the end of the day, this roster is not necessarily all the way fully loaded. Like, yeah, they're a really good roster, but when you know that you're going to have to compete against the real heavy hitters in the AFC, you're, pulling a flus, keeping a few tricks up your sleeve, however you want to say it. I feel like the Texans are just kind of they're playing good complementary ball right now, and they understand that's what they have to do because they do still have a really good roster. They expect to win the division more than anything. And at this point, you're saying, well, our ticket to the playoffs is winning this division. And then it's just, right, we got to win 3 or 4 from there. And that's kind of how I look at the Texans. It's like they don't have to do anything super flashy, but come playoff time, I expect them to pull some more tricks out, be a little bit more flashy and have a little bit more of a edge to the game plan to keep it as vanilla. My explanation is vanilla as possible, but you get what I'm trying to say. And more than anything, as long as CJ Stroud's out there, I'm never going to count the Texans out. I think that, right, at this point, we see that CJ Stroud elevates this team a lot. The Vikings, yeah, we know about the Vikings week, but nobody's figured out the Vikings defense yet. I mean, the reality is the Texans are loaded enough they can get it done. And, right, they still have a really good record. They should win the division. To me, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I was going to say they're leading the division right now. With the way that Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis look, I don't see any of those teams taking over. So moving into the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 4-0. Rashee Rice injury trending positively. They're saying he might not miss the whole season now. The Chiefs just stay until they don't make the playoffs. I mean, I think if I were to do a tier list every year, I'd just start them there unless they started like 0-6.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's nothing, again, there's nothing to say. Best defense in the league, in my opinion. We know what this offense will start to do eventually. They're figuring out more and more week by week. I mean, it is what it is. The Chiefs are Super Bowl contenders, whether you like it or not.
We have the Philadelphia Eagles who came and got stomped out by the Buccaneers. Are they still Super Bowl contenders? Because with losses to the Falcons in the last minute, barely beating the Saints, and then losing to the Buccaneers, I mean, that game, I hate to say it, but the Eagles could be 4-0 right now.
Well, no, you're 100% spot on. But I think, again, to the point of, for right now, maybe it is time to move them because I think more than anything, too, we already have talked about the QB situation. We talked about, right, we're going to have a whole video coming out on that. But more than anything, and we've already talked about this, too, do we have faith in Nick Sirianni at this point? Because I don't have much faith in Nick Sirianni at this point. I really don't. I
No.
think it's to me, it's almost like the writing is on the wall, right? Like we're looking at a new head coach next year at Philadelphia.
I
And with that being said, I don't know if I have faith in them as super contender. And not that they can't move back up, but I feel like for
I
right
think we have
now,
to move them down right now.
moving them down is the right thing to do.
Bills get stomped out by the Ravens, but I still think they're a Super Bowl contender with the way they played. And it's one game. It's the Ravens. It's not like they got stomped out by like a bad team. So everyone has those weeks. So I think I am comfortable leaving the Bills and Super Bowl contenders.
No, yeah, that's been the model all year. You get 1 week, you can shit the bed. It is as long as you, and maybe even you can shit the bed a couple times a year as long as it's not happening right next to each other, as long as it's not in a
Right.
consistent manner. You're allowed to do it when you're playing good ball. We'll see how they bounce back and respond.
Yeah, I mean, next we have the Green Bay Packers, who are a really interesting team. They have 2 wins with Malik Willis and 2 losses with Jordan Love. I don't think the score of the Vikings game really tells much of the story. We talked about the Vikings kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half, which allowed the Green Bay Packers to make a comeback, but still lost at home to a division rival. So they've beaten the Titans and the Colts, and the Colts game was close. Now that was Malik Willis. I I don't necessarily believe that they shouldn't be Super Bowl contenders and that Jordan Love won't figure it out. They're just kind of in a tough spot right now. Now they should have a chance to beat the Rams. They should beat the Rams, I should say, in Los Angeles this week. But still kind of a interesting start for the Green Bay Packers this year.
Well, and here's my thing, Hunter. I think we should move him down because, and I'm going to call it for what it is. I think every Packers fans can agree with this. Right now, this defense is not playing up to a standard that's going to win them a Super Bowl. I'm not worried about the offense. I'm not worried about Jordan Love. That to me is skewed. But I am very worried about the defense. And I think that for with that being said, and the fact they're 500 right now, I think they get moved down to the playoffs for the moment.
All right, we can move them down this week. I do think with a good performance against the Rams, they can move back up.
No, again, yeah, exactly. It's fluid. Packers fans don't freak out, but until his defense steps up, that is going to be, and they win consistently. We gotta acknowledge it for what it is right now.
We have the New Orleans Saints, who might be in play for Devontae Adams. They've dropped 2 in a row after starting out with 91 scored points. I think you got to move them down, Dobbs.
Yeah, from the resident Saints fan. But look, here's the thing too, because I can hear some Saints fans like, well, but we still have the second highest point differential, right? We lost both games at the very end. Well, here's my response to you guys. Again, that's being optimistic, but I'm gonna be realistic. Right. Winning teams, Super Bowl teams, they find ways to win those games. They don't find ways to lose them.
Right.
And Dennis Allen at this point, kind of like a lot of other coach we've talked about at this point of the year. Look, dude, Dennis Allen, he's still in the hot seat because this has been the identity of Dennis Allen teams, right? Get close, and the defense plays so good, but whenever it's a chance for his defense to go win the game, nothing happens. We lose. So I can't have faith in the Saints as a Super Bowl contender until that changes. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, next we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost to the Colts. The defense didn't look, its regular self, and Joe Flacco was able to win the game. Justin Fields played a really good game. I think they have to stay here. This is one of those games where it's like, it was more like, oh, it was a little bit out of whack. Like a little bit more out of whack for the defense and not something I expect them to repeat. So they got to stay.
Well, absolutely. And I want to add this too. Like, you could also spin it positively. Like, well, we saw that when Justin Fields has to get into more of a shootout and he has to really step up, he can do it. So, if anything, take it as a positive in that angle, Steelers fans, and you're still 3-1, top of the division. You got to love it. I mean, it is what it is.
Seattle Seahawks lose to the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. I'm comfortable leaving them here. They were very injured and still played a really good game. Geno Smith was balling out. So right now I think we can't touch the Seahawks. We got to leave them here.
No, absolutely. A matter of fact, I just want to comment on this. I did happen to see a comment earlier on one of our videos in regards to that we haven't been giving Geno his flowers. We haven't been acknowledging that Geno's still playing good ball. No, I'll acknowledge it. Geno is playing good ball, and Geno has been playing great ball for the Seahawks for a while. I don't know where you got that impression from that we don't show Geno love over here or anything, but let it be known, right? Geno continues to play the way he is, and if anything, elevate, right? Throw some more touchdowns, a little bit more productivity. The Seahawks are right up there with anybody, right, as far as Super Bowl contenders go at this point of the season.
Minnesota Vikings, one of the 2 teams that are undefeated right now in the NFL. They're 4-0. They have to stay here. I don't see any reason to move them down. They play the Jets this week, who I think they'll actually beat pretty handedly. Now that could come back to bite me, but I do think the Vikings are one of the more surprising and impressive teams in the NFL this year.
No, yeah, there's not much to say. Again, Sam Darnold playing really good football right now. It would be an MVP conversation if we ended the season right now. And on top of that, the defense is what it is. They're undefeated, and we're not even thinking about moving them.
Moving to the playoff tier, we're going to start out with the New York Jets. I feel like they got to go down right now until they figure out this offensive chemistry.
Yeah, I think that Jets fans being objective would agree. Again, not that I don't expect them to move up. I do. something, you guys got to consider this list. Staying fluid. Right, we're moving teams around all year, but for right now, they're a middle of the pack team, and it is what it is. No matter how you slice it, the offense isn't playing very good. Defense is holding up every end of the ship. Put them on a scale. It's 50-50. That's middle of the pack defined.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're 18th in EPA per play on offense, and to only put up 9 points against the Broncos, who are technically the number one defense in the NFL right now, it is impressive. But the fact that your offense couldn't score more than 9 points is really, really concerning. And you could tell that like him and Rodgers and Garrett Wilson are just not on the same page. So kind of concerning. I mean, I do think they're gonna probably make the play for Devontae Adams, and that's where he'll be. But at the end of the day, like as a Jets fan, you can't be encouraged with what you've seen so far. And I do want to give a little bit of defense, and maybe we all jump the gun a little bit on the Jets again, but I guess this is really only like his fourth game with the Jets, so chemistry will come. But I was thinking earlier about Rodgers, and the reality is the offense, like it's gonna be Aaron Rodgers' offense, right? But that takes a lot of chemistry between some of the top guys, and he hasn't had a ton of time. Like, are we gonna only allow that one season to develop? Like, Rodgers is not gonna be there for a super long time. So I don't know. The whole Jets experiment is very weird. It's almost like you need Devontae Adams in that offense.
No, it is interesting. And again, I'll leave it at this. I know Jets fans, they're hoping and praying that they get that news.
Now we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do think they need to stay at playoff, even though they did beat the Eagles. They lost to the Broncos, and after what the Broncos showed in week 4, I think we may have been a little bit hard on them. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Lions, which was impressive when they were still trying to figure it out. With the way we've talked about the Eagles, I don't know if I can justify moving the Bucs up to a playoff team just because their defense, from what I understand and what I've been seeing, just it's not clicking all the way just yet. I think next week, if we do see a good showing from their defense, I'd be willing to move them up. But I just feel more comfortable in playoff right now.
No, and also I will add, a positive for that Bucks defense though. Zion McCollum going absolutely ballistic. You gotta love to see that if you're a Bucks fan. But yeah, aside from that, look, I think the reality is that Broncos game is still going to be lingering in our head for a little bit. But again, I do think that they're getting close, and it's not. Again, I can see Bucks fans getting frustrated, like, well, we're 3-1, yada yada. But again, I just am not ready to say that off the competition level we've seen them like facing. And again, I just a little more consistency before I have faith that this is going to be a Super Bowl contending team.
We have the Baltimore Ravens. Half of me wants to move them up, half of me wants to keep them here. I do think that with the way they played the Bills, was impressive, and I think they answered a lot of questions. What do you think, Dobbs? Because I'm really 50-50 on this.
No, I think I'm going to say this. I think we'd be disrespecting some other teams if we moved them up yet. And yes,
Yeah.
right. They lost by, not necessarily lost by, but they didn't go to overtime by Zay like he's big toe. They could very well be 3-1. And I hear all that. But again, they almost let the Cowboys come back on them. They did lose to the Raiders. And we always say, yeah, one really good week is the same to me as one shitting the bed week. You got to show up consistently. I need to see it again. And this is going to be a really good test versus the Bengals. If they can show out again, well, I think there's no doubt we'll sit here and say we're going to move them up Super Bowl contender.
I believe the Los Angeles Chargers are going to be going to the middle of the pack, unfortunately. They have failed to score more than 10 points in a game this year. They have. Oh, wait, I'm lying. I apologize. That was very, very wrong. I was looking at the wrong side of the stats. I do think, though, in losses, they have not been able to score more than 10 points against teams that are not the Raiders or Panthers. Let me say that. They couldn't score more than 10 points against the Steelers or the Chiefs, and next week they have the Broncos, who is the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. So I don't see them having a good game, and that will move them to 2-3, and I'm going to have them middle of the pack this year. I think with what they showed week 1 and week 2 is impressive against not great teams, and I still think they are kind of a year away from being maybe that competing team in the playoffs.
No, you basically look. You took the words out of my mouth, and I want to add to Justin Herbert lingering injury. That's not a good sign for the
No.
rest of the season, right? And also just the history right now with Herbert. I'm a little concerned about that. Right, that's a whole other can of worms. Not even going to open right now. But more than anything else, like you said, we weren't high on the Chargers coming into the year. They started hot. They got us like, a little excited. But kind of like some other teams, it's kind of like back to reality. Are they ready to really go win the Lombardi this season? Very likely not. That's kind of just reality at this point.
Arizona Cardinals are moving down as well. They're starting off 1-3. They surprised us with the Rams, but
They might even be. Are they? Look, here's the thing. I mean, I,
they
right
might be
now, are
any
they
given
middle? Are they
Sunday.
middle of the pack, or are they any given Sunday?
I think
Because
I think the defense is starting to get exposed. So maybe let's move them down to any given Sunday. Let's do a double
yeah,
tier jump
I'm
for them.
sorry. Cardinals fans at this point, this is kind of a double tier jump. It kind of is. Like we got a little
Unfortunately,
excited.
they have the Packers and the 49ers next. So that will be a tough challenge.
Yeah, they can work their way back up, but I think at this point, I'm sorry. You look at the Cardinals as a whole, and it's kind of like, yeah, they still got a long way to go.
49ers, I feel like, are probably going to go back up to Super Bowl, even though I'm not loving their defense. They stomped out the Patriots like they should have, so they did everything they should have. The I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Brock
I
Purdy's
think they
playing out of
stay.
his mind,
I
but
think they stay until look because again. So we got. Let me just double check here.
they
Who
have
we
the
got coming up.
Cardinals and the Seahawks, then the
Like,
Chiefs.
yeah, I think. Look, I think let's keep him for another week. You stomp out the Cardinals and do what you're supposed to do.
All
But
right,
if
that's
not,
fair.
then again, we're back in the situation where it's like because I'm not ready to jump the gun on the Niners. I'm not. Again, they should be. They should be Super Bowl contenders. But I'm not going to jump the gun. I don't think until they show us that that's what it is this year.
Yeah, and also I'm concerned with CMC's injury. Like that could be very bad for them.
But at the same time, I mean, Jordan Mason's doing his job. Jordan Mason's playing
Yeah,
fantastic
I
ball.
understand that, and I understand that they have made other guys work, but let's not pretend that CMC isn't a different level of player.
Well, I was gonna say too. Let's not pretend like Jordan Mason. I guess more than anything is replicates any of that in the passing game. That's the biggest thing.
And the other thing too is we keep saying another thing. Brandon
Well, fuck
Ayuk,
it. We just more and more.
Brandon Ayuk, not good this year so far.
It's almost like wait, Hunter. It's almost like when you don't practice all off season and you bring a vibe down and then you show up out of shape. It's almost like there's repercussions for that a little bit.
Next, we're moving into the Atlanta Falcons in the middle of the pack. They're 2-2 right now. They've kept it pretty close with everybody. It's been one score games for every game. But I'm not all that impressed with their defense right now. And
Forget that. We're not that impressed with the offense either. Let's call it. Keep it
yeah,
up.
I mean, they're a bottom 10 defense. And, well, technically, they're 23rd, so less than bottom 10, unless my math is wrong. And then when you want to look at their offense right now, they're sitting around 21st. So I don't know how I can move them up. Like neither of those are playoff numbers. They kind of look like they're still getting stuff figured out, which is fair. It's a new coaching staff, new quarterback. But yeah, right now I think they gotta stay middle of the pack.
Hunter, legitimately, this is the thing too, and I think Falcons fans, if they're being objective, are going to sit here and agree, and I don't care. Look, it realistically, your two boneheaded decisions, literally just boneheaded plays, boneheaded decisions at the end of games, away from being 0-4. You are. So that's really the bottom line. It's not like you watch the Falcons, you're like, yeah, they won those games. No, it's literally like, no, the Eagles and Saints lost those games. It's not like you get what I'm saying here? And yeah, we know they kept it close against the Chiefs. And maybe you could say the same thing about the Chiefs game. But again, as we've already acknowledged, Chiefs defense is bailing them out. Chiefs offense isn't playing good ball right now. It is what it is.
We have the Los Angeles Rams who are 1-3. They play the Packers and are still very injured. They lost to one of the better defenses in the league versus the Bears. Their offense looked okay at times, but with all the injuries, I'm not ready to move them up. I don't feel confident that they can go in and beat the Packers. Not confident they can beat the Raiders, and not confident they can beat the Vikings, the next three teams. So I think they got to stay middle of the pack for now.
Yeah, well, on top of that, I'm not really convinced really almost anybody is playing really good football on this team right now, Hunter. I mean, and it's not to say Stafford's not playing, but Stafford's not playing up to Stafford standard. I think he would agree. Your best player on defense is a rookie in Jared Verse. And outside of that, it's kind of bleak. I mean, call it for what it is. It's looking a little bit bleak in LA this year.
We have the Cincinnati Bengals who are 1-3, and their next opponent is versus the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off a hot game beating the Buffalo Bills. I feel like right now they got to stay. Like they bounced back versus the Panthers, but it was only a 10-point game. Like you should have beaten them by more, in my opinion, even though your defense is horrible.
No, if anything, it just reconfirmed that their defense is still horrible.
Yeah.
So it didn't change anything we didn't expect or know.
Dallas Cowboys, middle of the pack, playoffs, or any given Sunday.
Yeah. I think they still stay middle of the pack, but
Yeah.
let's just say this.
I'm concerned about their game versus the Steelers, honestly.
To everybody's surprise, or maybe not everybody, but to many people's surprise, they very well could find themselves at any given Sunday after this Sunday.
Yes. Moving into the Washington Commanders, I feel like they got to move up to playoffs. I mean, the stats say it, the record says it. Jaden Daniels is playing like it. Little foreshadowing for Friday. I have a video coming out about Cliff's Arizona offense, the Commanders offense, kind of, what to expect. I'm just going to say this. I'm not buying the hype.
Well, again, look, we always say that's why this list is fluid, right? Right now, if you're the Commanders, you're doing backflips, you're super excited, and you should be. And regardless, you should be ecstatic for the future. Like, that's one thing is you're sitting here and you're like, all right, like, we're heading in the right direction no matter what. And if you end up making the playoffs this year, then albeit you're doing triple backflips, double backflips on a skateboard. But regardless, at least you're going in the right direction, and you should be super happy right now. And you guys deserve to be in the playoff tier right now.
Regardless of how you feel about the offense or defense of the Browns, that's who they play this upcoming week. The Browns are a top 12 defense. The Commanders have yet to face a top 20 defense, unfortunately.
Big litmus test.
Or top 19, I should say. I believe the Giants are 20th. Moving in to the any given Sunday tier, we have the Indianapolis Colts. I think it was a very impressive win against the Steelers, but that doesn't make me feel confident about moving them to middle of the pack. I feel like they have to stay.
If anything, it's the definition of any given Sunday. They got to show if they can do it more than once.
Right.
And that's why they're in any given Sunday, because we knew that they're going to pull some out the hat. Now it's up to them to show us they can do it consistently.
Oh, my Lord. It is going to be a great game versus the Jaguars this week.
Aren't you ecstatic?
The Jaguars win their first game. Cleveland Browns. I am willing to move them. I don't know. I feel like they got to stay. I want to move them up because it's really that offensive line. Like after Bill Callahan left, that thing just fell apart. So, yeah, I feel like they got to stay. Damn.
I'll say this though, honestly.
Even though Deshaun's playing better.
That's what I'm going to say. Look, Deshaun, if anything, is the best weapon you have on offense right now, which is crazy. But again, respect to Deshaun, right? The bounce back, especially if you're watching all 22, you're seeing it. Like you're seeing the footwork improving how you want to. You're seeing that accuracy improve. What you're not seeing is the receivers holding up their end of the weight. Besides Jerry Jeudy, credit where it's due. Jerry Jeudy is pretty much holding his end of the bargain up. Everyone else, absolutely not. This O-line. I mean, Hunter, it smells like shit over here because this line is playing just abhorrent football. I'm not even trying to be funny, but it's almost funny how bad the line is at this point. And not even from just how bad it is. It's funny because when you go back and watch last year and you watch this year, you're like, oh, I must have time traveled like 5 years ahead because there's no way this is the regression we're seeing in one season. But sure enough, it is.
Chicago Bears. I feel like moving them up to the middle of the pack is okay. I think with what they're able to do on defense is good. I think the offense found its footing a little bit in the run game, but it's still a long way from good on offense, but we can certainly say their defense is one of the best in the league.
Oh, it's a real long way from good, but we know who the war criminal is that's holding them back. At least we can identify it to one point. And more than anything, yeah, when you have a defense like how the Bears play, you're a middle of the pack team pretty irregardless. And I think the Bears will at least round out towards 500 regardless because of that defense.
Miami Dolphins. Going to the basement. They are going to the basement.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody in the world that's doubting that. There's no Dolphins fan that's doubting that. Again, once Tua returns when that happens, still assuming, I mean, everything we're hearing at this point is trending towards Tua coming back. I can say pretty confidently at this point, barring something, right, a major setback or something that happens along lines, which I don't expect or don't want. So yeah, at this point, look, basement, not much explanation needed. Oh, but if I'll leave this explanation, Mike McDaniel, you got to figure it out, man.
Got to figure it out. Yeah, that team stinks without Tua. Las Vegas Raiders, any given Sunday is like the perfect category for them. Like, I don't
Yeah,
trust them to be middle of the pack, but like they could beat a team randomly whenever.
but they could pull up to middle of the pack here eventually if they keep it going. And you know what? Again, not counting them out, but they're a team that they're a 500 team that is still going to stick around middle of the pack because they really should have lost last week, and that was again the Browns beating themselves more than the Raiders winning. So like, I'm gonna leave it at that.
New England Patriots. Decent defense. The offense is really bad. I feel like they're 1 week away from going to the basement, but I don't want to put them there now.
No, I hear you, but I think it's almost like delaying the inevitable, but I'm with you. Like, we'll give them one more shot, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they deserve it, Hunter. I really don't. I think because I'm gonna say it like this too. Here's how I think we really have to think about it at this point. Yeah, they haven't and right, but yeah, they kept it close against the Seahawks. They beat the Bengals week 1, but it's like I I don't know if the resume right now is enough for me to say that they shouldn't be in the basement because we expect them to be a bad team. They are a bad team.
All right,
I
let's
almost
move
feel
them
like we're just
down. Let's
delaying the
move them
inevitable.
down.
I think we got to move them down, and I think they have to prove us otherwise.
Moving into the basement tier, we have the New York Giants. I think they got to stay exactly where they are. I don't know if they're getting better. I don't know if anything's really changing. I just think they kind of are who they are.
Yeah, I think again more of a reflection of the Cowboys that it was close, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of just like again, it's up to the Giants to prove us wrong, not vice versa.
Let's go to the Broncos. I think they got to move up to any given Sunday, especially with that defense. I mean, we saw what they just did to the Jets. So keeping on in basement would kind of be disrespectful, even
Yeah,
though the
no,
offense
little
stinks.
clap there for the Broncos, surprising me, surprising the world, but not as much when you consider that Sean Payton is the coach, and that's kind of been like the whole mantra we've had around them forever. It's like, yeah, if this Broncos team was coached by fill in the blank, oh, they're seeing 3 or 4 wins. But with Sean Payton out there, you got to have some faith.
The Tennessee Titans, a basement team beating another basement team. Does that qualify a move up to any given Sunday? I don't think so. I think they got to stay here right now.
Yeah, absolutely not. And it's not like they did it in glorious, fun fashion or anything.
No. Jaguars, I'm sorry you're going down to NFL hell. Welcome to your own tier. You're 0-4.
This is we could have done 100 simulations of the season, and I never thought we were going to see the Jaguars in NFL hell. This is
No.
truly just this is just abhorrent.
Egregious. Our last team, the Carolina Panthers. Do they deserve any given Sunday?
Not yet,
Not
but
yet. No.
they're on the radar. And Panthers fans, you should be ecstatic with the growth that you're seeing from this team, and you should be really happy with the way the O line is playing.
They're
I will
just
add on top of
really,
that.
really screwed with all the injuries on defense. Like, their offense can be competent, but their defense is just so bad that it is always going to put them in a position where they just can't do it.
No, like if you gave this team an elite defense right now, I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm really not trying to be funny. And like I'm being serious. I actually the way Andy Dalton is playing and the O line is playing, you might be like, oh my God, can this team make a run to be like 9-8 at the end of the year?
It's
Not even
possible.
saying playoffs, but just finish above 500. I actually might be saying that, but not with this defense. That's going to be the biggest uphill battle possible.
This has been our NFL tiers for week 5, our power rankings. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let us know in the comments who is too high and who is too low. Thank you guys so much for watching.